Hey everybody, it's Ted. Welcome to the Ted Show, episode 6. I'm here with my friend and mentor, Vic Collazo, and we had a few technical difficulties this morning, so we're in a little bit of a different view. I spilled water all over my laptop, so thank God our producer, Charnel Wright, who's right here. Get all the credit, Charnel, you deserve it. So I am going to try to look at your comments. We're trying to figure that out right now. But we're excited to have you guys here and excited to have Vic here. So Vic, let's talk a little bit about our history. And for Jackie, I promise you it's going to be clean. It's not going to, we're not going to tell any of the crazy stories that we could tell. Thank you for doing that. But I met Vic at UCF in the 80s. I was visiting as a 4-year-old. And I met him because I became part of student government and very active in the Greek system, and then became friends with Jimmy Farrell and eventually Pete Fisher, and was a member of the peer advisement team, which that changed my life as Jimmy.
As it did for many.
And the same with Jimmy and O-Team.
Yes.
And so Jimmy and Pete and Vic were big mentors of mine in college, and you've really carried the torch since both of them passed. But what I always think of how many lives you guys have impacted. If you think about it generationally, if you see all of the people on Facebook, all of the kids that came through orientation, all of the people that were on the teams, and now their families and their kids all kind of carry a piece of Jimmy and you and Pete with them.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I was 12 years old when...
You were only 12,
when
I
you
remember.
Were 4.
That's good.
So I was only 12 when I was at UCF and started there, and actually coming back as a student leader, because I was in student government and O-Team and all those kinds of things, and that experience is just invaluable. And the number of lives that are changed, and it all comes down to, it's all about individuals. It's all about the person, and that's what I really took from Jimmy and from Pete the most, is we all have our story and we all have our potential. And throughout my professional career and continuing on in retirement, that's what I really I work to promote and encourage people.
Well, I think that's what you all did, and you continue to do. The mentoring is so important. Oh, thank you. I see. Oh, Stacy says she loves your jacket.
Oh, thank you. I went out shopping for this.
You went out shopping and you got a haircut.
Yeah, I got a haircut.
But I even think about how it changed my life, which then impacted all of my relationships in a positive way, and impacted my children, who are now going out into the world and impacting the world. And all of that can be traced back, and for me especially, to peer advisement, Pete and Jimmy and you. So I think there's a lot of people that owe a huge debt, a huge amount of we have a lot of gratitude to you all. And that's an awesome thing. Like, I always think of that, there's a scene when Oprah's last show, I don't know if you saw it, and all these guys march out, and Kristen Chenoweth singing For Good, and she's bawling because these are all the people that came out that she has impacted. And I think that that's what you guys have out there. We just haven't had the ceremony for it.
Well, I was lucky enough to, I was at UCF for 10 years and had a great experience there, but then I moved on to Valencia. And
what did you do there?
I was a student development coordinator for the West Campus, and a lot of college-wide programs that I coordinated with Elaine Turner, rest in peace. And we created, and Dr. Schugert, the current president, when he came on, gave us the opportunity to do the things that Jimmy, those of us that can remember Jimmy, you'd go into his office, and it was never for a quick question. And he had that one sheet that he would always pull out about orientation to graduation and beyond. And Dr. Schugert in Valencia allowed us to develop a program, a leadership program, very similar, but for those students. And I probably, if you're talking about impacting students, impacted many, many more my 20 years at Valencia.
God, you were there 20 years?
20 years.
That's amazing. I was thinking the other day that the last peer advisement team that Pete was part of.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, Cheers. This is Vic's version of a Cosmo, but it has no alcohol in it, Jackie, I promise. We're all good to go. Steve Martin says, Vic Collazo, one of my favorite human beings.
Oh, thank you.
And somebody said, you guys look great in blue. Hey, Evan, how you doing? Thanks for joining in.
Well,
so 20 years there, but I was thinking that's what I was going back to. 1990 was the last peer advisement team.
Yes.
It went a few years after that.
Yes.
But 1990 was kind of this crazy, wonderful year for me. I was in grad school, engaged, still wanted to be part of it. It was my 5th year. And I'm so glad I did it. And I don't think a lot of, like, my children didn't have anything like that at their school. It just was such a unique, wonderful time. So that's 27 years ago.
Well, there's so many things, and really in the last 5 years really have taken heart. I was preaching all this, the gospel of Jimmy and Pete for so many years and stuff, and in many ways I was not living it. But in the last 5 years, some of it really started to take hold. The lessons from Little Tree, the education of Little Tree, the book, and some of the things that Jimmy had talked to me about its, as an educator, some of the most important days are when your student no longer needs you.
Right.
And I proudly look at many of the names, some of the names coming up now, and the things all of you are doing are incredible, and you are changing the world. And the legacy that Jimmy and Pete and
you
and me that are leaving are you guys, and the things that you're accomplishing and the people that you're impacting, and then it just grows geometrically.
It does.
And so that's why things like this weekend, where with the violence and those kinds of things, I know there's hope, because we are there, and we're going to continue to preach. When I post, I use the term unconditional love, and I think many of us have that unconditional love for each other, and we would be there at a drop of a hat.
Agreed.
For each other. When I was sick 4 or 5 years ago and near death and everything, just the support and the love that I got was insane and invaluable.
So I think for a lot of us, and I want to talk about what happened to you 4 or 5 years ago, I think for a lot of us, peer advisement, O-Team, the Greek system, that was the first time that we had ever felt unconditional love, period. And so that was such an interesting thing, and to be able to embrace that and learn how to give it, because you're afraid of it at first. You're like, there's got to be something up.
Yeah.
But you all were so instrumental in showing us ways to accept it, and by accepting it, then we were able to give it. And I think that's impacted so many, again, families, all of our spouses, the kids. They all got a piece of that, even though my kids think I'm way too huggy, right, kids?
Yeah.
It's a lot of that has to do with we really did that in O-Team and peer advisement. That was some of the first guys I ever hugged.
I think it really translated over at that time to the Greek system.
Yep.
I'm a Lambda Chi, and I'm still active with the alumni chapter, and will someday be active with the active chapter once they get back. We felt the same thing there, right. And the contacts and the friends that I made throughout the Greek system, I just go through, and the Scott Roses and the Todd Bowers, yep. And you just go on and on and on. All these great Tico, Armando. I mean, all these people that played a big role in my life. And are doing these great things. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, and again, back to the legacy part. I think that will never end, because there are so many great friendships that have been built, the families that have built, the kids that have grown up around kids of people. All of us on peer advisement now, the kids know each other. I just think it's just powerful, exponentially powerful.
And this little keywords like Twitter-pated,
Twitter-pated,
and those of us from that time and had those experiences with Jimmy and Pete, understand what it means totally. And
True.
I don't know if there is such a word, but many
We're
times
going to make it up. It's called
Twitter-pated.
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 Twitter-pated. Brian Fallon says, love is love is love. Charge on. I love Brian.
Yes.
Hi, Heidi. Thank you very much. Heidi Foster. It's a little slow, so bear with me. This is not as fast as the one over there. All right, so let's talk about you had a life-changing experience. And I'll just let you tell it because you tell it best. It's your story to tell.
I've been writing a lot about my past and my experiences.
No, I'm not crying yet.
Yeah. Experiences over the last year. I am an alcoholic and have been an alcoholic all my life. And I think back about some of those days. And in the end, I think Valencia and stuff, my last couple of years there weren't my best. I was still doing good work with our students, and I see one.
Yeah, Pam Howe says hi. Or
Hey.
Pam Howe Blackburn, sorry. Hi, Pam.
Yeah, it's always, with the women, it's always your maiden name.
Yeah,
so you
that's
can
all
get
I
married
remember.
as many times as you want and change your name. It's always your maiden name. But it wasn't my best years, but I still continued stuff, and I took a retirement. I retired after 30 years of service with UCF and Valencia, and shortly thereafter, I got sick, October of 2012, and I went into the hospital. Spent 3 weeks in there. My hemo levels had dropped, and I was continuously warned by doctors about my level enzyme levels and what I was doing, blah, blah, blah. But being a good alcoholic, you don't listen to your doctor, and you keep drinking. And so after that incident, I stopped drinking for a little while, but then I came back bigger and stronger, and just a few months later, March 11th.
Isn't that amazing you know the date, right?
Yes.
That's what David said yesterday. He knew the date.
Knew the date. March 11th is, I put Jackie through one of the worst experiences a husband could ever put his wife through. And she took me. Deep breath.
Oh, it's good.
And basically my internal organs had failed. My liver had failed, which resulted in my kidneys almost failing totally, and everything else just falls along with it. And I spent 3 weeks in there, but one of the things that did happen is they put me through they kind of put me in a semi-comatose state, and I went through withdrawals while I was being taken care of the other stuff. And I woke up and was looking, and there was Jackie just, next to the bed. And at that time, I decided that I was never going to do that to her again, do it to my beautiful children or my grandchildren, and that any skills, talents, abilities that God had given me, that I was going to share without compensation. So
That's
since
huge.
then, since then, I was starting a coaching business for high school students going into college and stuff. So I still do that, but I don't charge. And I committed myself to different community service agencies, and that's what I do now. I serve primarily the Cure Bowl. I work with a lot, and we raise a lot of money for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation.
And that was really started here. Like this was this was started with John
John
Rhodes'
Rhodes
sister.
and I had a conversation.
Hey John, if you're out there.
Yeah, the first Liberty Bowl, and his sister was sick, and he knew what was happening. He wanted to do something for her. And we had talked about jokingly about a bowl game, and then she eventually passed on from breast cancer. And John and Alan Gooch and Scott Rose and a number of other great people got together and created the Cure Bowl took 7 years for it to happen, but 2 years ago
I remember the first couple of meetings, like just getting together and chatting about it, thinking, how in the world are they going to pull that off? And you all did.
Yeah, and I was telling you that January of the year of our first game, that group was sitting around and they were talking about the logistics of putting on a game, and I was retired at the time, and they were sitting there saying, well, we need somebody to take care of the logistics and the people and the volunteers. And Mike Forrestal, Dodd, had mentioned that I was retired, and they called me up then, and Alan congratulating me on being the director of volunteer services.
That sounds like Alan.
Yeah,
Alan will volunteer you for anything. Hey, Alan.
So,
Coach. Hey, Coach.
Coach. And then since then, I shared that story with you that I was coordinating the volunteers, and at one event that I didn't attend, but my volunteers were there, after like the 10th or 12th person, Coach and Megan Dowdy looked at each other and said, we have our center fielder in the kitchen, and so they promoted me, and I'm a volunteer, so it was entitled only to community relations and development.
Good.
So
but you're
that's
good
what's on my business card.
You actually have a business card for
Yes,
it.
I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So your mentoring has been, that's how I look at you, as a mentor. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out in the community how to get involved, how to be impactful. There's so much of a need for mentoring, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of opportunity out there.
No, there's a lot of opportunities.
Oh, good. Well, explain.
And the thing is that you need to find whatever you're passionate for. Cancer research is one of my things, working with students. And I was introduced to UCP, Cerebral Palsy's charter schools here in Orlando, and I've been volunteering there.
Awesome.
And today I spent 2.5 hours putting stamps of the school stamp inside of their new books and everything, because it's those kinds of things that when you think about that 3 hours of work for me saved the organization about $100 in salary. When you talk about salary and benefits and everything else, I don't have $100 to give them today.
Right.
But I gave them $100 of my time.
That's correct.
And it was free time. I knew I was going to be here, and I could have been home watching the Today Show, or I could have been fake drinking with Kathy Lee and Hoda.
That's sort of my goal, actually.
And so I spent my time, and I'm a big hashtagger.
I am too. My kids want to kill me for it though right now.
And my two
hashtags.
And Jennifer Thompson at the ceremony last month, when she was talking about me, said my hashtag is #ServiceMatters.
Look, here's Jameson coming into the picture. Yay. Oh, you can take the old one.
Lost hands
Thank
before.
you so much. And let's talk about Jennifer Thompson and what award that you were just given a month ago, which is amazing.
Well, she was Commissioner Thompson. She's the commissioner of District 4 for Orange County, and she nominated me, and I was named Orange County Citizen of the Year for District 4.
That's amazing. So what do you do? What did you do to even get on her radar? Is because you're incredibly active out there? Because her district is where you live, Avalon Park.
Yeah, basically 436 and Highway 50, kind of south. All the way down to OBT, the airport, Lake Nona area. So it's just and she had just listed, and while I was on stage, I was with one of the other people, and I was just, who are they talking about? And she was just going through with the Cure Bowl, my work with Jennifer Howard Rogan, who was a Valencia student that came back 10 years later. told her story and how she walked into my office, and I gave her an opportunity. She helped create the Valencia Volunteers, which is a Disney award-winning program.
That's amazing.
Onward and onward, and that group is impacting
Had
thousands.
she worked with you before?
No, she was a student that was in need and needed help because she was a single mom and a breast cancer survivor. So I had 5 hours a week of money that I could hire her, and she did the research and created that program. So she came back 10 years later, had a reception, and told the starfish story. And if you haven't heard that, Google it.
Google the starfish story.
And it'll make you cry. And she told her story, and at the end she just sat there and said, "Thank you for throwing me back in."
Oh, I love that.
And so she created a scholarship. It's How Collazo Starfish Swam scholarship at Valencia. We raised money. We have a good chunk of change in there, and this past spring we awarded 4 scholarships, three $500 scholarships, one $600 scholarships. So, and the only requirement is really you need a story. And there are so many students out there with a story, and we're changing the world one student at a time.
So when the student applications come in for that, because that's what you review applications, they probably have to an essay, or they have to tell their story.
They tell their story.
So when you go through that, do you feel like
we cry a lot?
I was going to say you cry, because I'd cry. Do you feel like the students nowadays have more of a hard story to tell, or have they always had a hard story to tell, and now they just have a venue to do it? More social media.
They have the venue, and there are stories that have gone on forever. But some of the stories are more visible now because it's acceptable. One of the recipients is a woman from a domestic violence situation that finally got rid of the bum. And
good for her.
With she and her 2 children wanted to go back to school, so I'm helping her start going back to school.
That's like, and back to that, like the news, it seems like all we hear are the negatives all the time. And so it seems like, as an older person, that it's worse than it was. But I don't know if that's a generational thing, like my parents thought that it was worse for us than them, or if it's just because we're bombarded and blasted with all the negative news all the time, and people use social media to basically air every possible part of their life, good or bad or indifferent, not judging. And so but it just feels like it's more prevalent.
Yeah, it just feels that way, but it's really not. And we all have our stories, and now we have that opportunity to share our stories.
Correct. We swept, I agree with you. I think we swept it under, it was not really, we didn't have the venue, we didn't have the social media to talk about it on,
well,
so you swept it under the rug.
And if I can talk, towards the end here about the alcoholism, and we all have our issues, we all have the problems, and I'm very vocal about it because I think it's important for people to understand that you can be a community leader, a service leader, a political leader, a business leader, and have issues and these things. It's a disease that I have, and you wouldn't condemn me if I had cancer and was doing these same things. It's a disease I have. I'm recovering, because you're never recovered.
Right.
You're always recovering, so I'm recovering. I have my white chip in my wallet, because as a reminder that every day is day one for me as an alcoholic. And I have my personal mission statement in my wallet, which says Victor is to be the best servant leader he can be today.
That's awesome.
So that's what
really
I do.
Awesome. And you do it well, and have impacted. Debbie Jacob Bison says Victor rocks, his heart is as good as gold. And I agree with that. And I think that's the message that Vic leaves, if I could paraphrase. You go out and you touch people. That doesn't necessarily mean you're perfect or that you don't have problems or issues. You can still do good in the world and still have the things that we all carry around, depending on our burden and what we have in our past, or what cross we have to bear.
Yeah, if I could just change the Neighborhood Watch theme about see something, say something. For me, it would be see something, do something.
I love that. That's awesome. All right, guys. We appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
And we're right at 12:25.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I love you, and as I always end my live statement is take care of yourself, take care of each other. I love you.
Oh, we love you too, Vic. All right, so now you're going to see the low rent, how I have to go up and I have to hit the pause button myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't have my remote yet. Thank you, guys.
Take care, people.